someone was like, oh, you should go. You'll have FOMO. And I was like, I'm not going to have a fear of missing out. I have a hope of missing out. I have homo. That's the true homo.
That is the truth. We can all be homos this year.
Yeah, a hope of missing. I hope I miss that because I don't want to go.
Like a Red Hot Chili Peppers reunion show.
Homo. Total homo.
Total homo. And people are like, what are you saying? Are you being derogatory towards gays? You're like, no. I am being a little derogatory towards the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
100%.
But no.
Yeah, no, hope of missing out.
This isn't important. See what you just did there? You created a new word that sounds like a slur.
Yes.
But means something else.
And that's what...
Without even trying.
Yeah.
You just, right now, created the flawless transition into the HILF this episode.
History, I'd like to follow me down the rabbit hole. History, I'd like to, frankly, I want to know.
Welcome to part 2 of the F word. Now, I've never done a 2-parter before, but I did have a hunch that this subject and this guest might just come together to yield a bounty of good stuff that simply could not be contained in one episode. And bam. Here we are. Now, in part 1, Ryan and I covered the history of profanity in general, some of the neuroscience involved. Then we did a deep dive into the origin and uses of curse words like hell, damn, fuck. We even covered the many uses of the word dick in Russian. I know, right? Now, ahead, we are going to dig deep into shit and spend some titillating time among the many words for our nether regions. We even dangle a toe over the present-day Mac Daddy kingpin of all forbidden speech, slurs. And spoiler alert, I do not say them, but I am going to tell you why I don't say them. It is the history of the F word and the P, C, D, N, and other F word. Let's get started. So you're chomping on your Chex Mix now?
Are you recording?
Of course.
Oh my God. I'm horrified.
Sweetheart, you had 20 minutes. You chatted with your fella on the phone the whole time, and now you think
Don't tell the listeners I have a fella. They're going to think I'm not single. I'm single as fuck.
He
was a fella. That was a platonic fella. Excuse me, on my podcast debut where my voice goes out all over the world and you're going to make them think I have a fucking boyfriend and fucking cock block me internationally?
You're chomping on your Chex Mix.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know you were that concerned with how you came across.
I'm used to like an action and now we've started.
Oh my God. Oh girl, Chex Mix is so good though, right?
I'm going to wash it down real quick with more wine.
Now, my dear friend Ryan, remind our listeners, first thing I asked you in the podcast, girl, was what's your favorite curse word? And you said...
Shit.
Girl, I am getting into the history of shit. I'm going to deep in shit. We're going to pile the shit deeply on top of our heads. Are you prepared?
I'm ready.
Now,
as we would say in Texas, shit. That's Texan.
Oh, shit, yeah. So we don't know exactly when and how this glorious word shit first entered the English language. One theory was that it came from an acronym of ship high in transit, was stamped on bags of manure that were traveling via ship because it was very important that these bags of manure were shipped high in transit because if they were shipped below the waterline, they could rot and condensation of water, they would produce a lot of methane and blow that shit up. Right?
Really?
Yeah. So manure, if improperly stored, can create enough methane to blow up a ship. So they would stamp on these bags and they would ship guano and various fertilizer. There's a lot of reasons why you would be shipping shit via boat.
Fertilizer, yeah.
Exactly. So that they would stamp these bags of shit with ship high in transit, SHIT.
Love that.
And people very quickly then say, the word shit came from this ship high in transit. And that makes sense to me. And that's what I'm going to believe.
That makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me,
right.
too. It does.
Feels right in my heart.
And like so many things that seem right and make sense in your heart have nothing to do with the actual truth of things.
Oh, shit.
Because the fact is, if you are a linguist and a historian, you go, no. Because who doesn't have a word for shit before there's boats and bags of manure? Like no sailor in the history of sailoring didn't have a very good word for shit. long before they were if only I could think of a word to describe what's been coming out of my body and every human body since human bodies have been bodies.
Yes.
The idea that sailors didn't have a word for this, or that there would be sort of this word that wouldn't have transcended a universal term before it was stamped on a bag of manure is very difficult to accept. So it's a very cute story. I don't mind you perpetuating it, but I want you to know as a listener of HILF, almost definitely not the origin of the word shit.
It's kind of agreed upon that's not the...
Probably. I mean, they're like, well, can you find origins of roots of words that are shit elsewhere? Yes, and I'm going to get into that. But if you want to just start with that.
And it's like the earliest written record of the word shit. Was it before or after ships?
Well, this is... Now, fuck, see, I sort of primed you with fuck where I said here's the first time we ever saw it written, this Abbott in 1528. Excuse me. That was fucking rude.
I can't chew my checks, Max, but you can fucking belch.
Well, because you're not editing this thing. I'm the one who's going to sit down with my headphones, and I got to edit this thing, and I got to listen to you tapping on the table. I got to listen to you chomping your checks, Max.
Please don't cut this.
I know how to turn my head and burp in a way that I can edit out, but you're slobbering through your talking.
First time virgin, podcast virgin.
Shit doesn't have the same convenient through line that the word fuck does. All curse words are special, and they all have their own origin. What we know is that in a lot of Germanic languages, again, depending on where you live in Europe, your roots are either Greek, Roman, Old English, Germanic, and then how do you select and evolve what words kind of come from all of these things? What we know is that in a lot of these Germanic languages, this sound, Scheisse, Schit, skit, and Scheisse all mean shit and all have a real similar sound. Ski.
Scheisse.
And it's simply because it's not
I've heard it before. I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. And it's not, and it doesn't follow the usual words, which is one syllable, ends in a consonant, and yet it is really fun to say. Scheisse. Yeah. One of the origins is this, the Ukrainian region has the word skei, S-K-E-I, skei. And the meaning of that word, which seems to sort of predate a lot of these words, is to cut off, i.e. to pinch a loaf.
Oh.
Right?
Oh.
To cut off.
Oh.
And it's the skei, which is a schism. Lots of root words that tend to mean to divide, including science. Science is sky. It has that similar sound. And science is to dissect, to cut and examine and look at things. So there may be a root to shit that while it is the excrement, the feces is what we associate shit with now, part of the word that we chose to represent the feces that comes out of our body came from this root word of to pinch off, to cut off.
Oh.
Because of the act of shitting more than the substance of the shit itself. So in the Middle Ages, poop and shit and feces, we don't have, these words exist and they mean what they mean now, but nobody took offense to it because nobody took offense to those acts. We're all living in one-room houses.
Right.
Girl, you know.
And there wasn't indoor plumbing then, so.
Yeah.
So it's a little less discreet.
Precisely. So seeing someone lift up their clothes and take a shit was something that everyone did, and it wasn't considered rude or out of bounds or offensive to do the act. So while the word may be funny, it wasn't offensive. Flash forward to the Victorian period, the evolution of homes and society, where we expect you to do your quote-unquote ugly business,
your business
behind closed doors. And if you poop or shit or fuck or pick your nose in front of me, it is offensive because you should know that is done elsewhere. We have rooms for that now.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Especially as a sign of class. You, lowly degenerate, may be so poor that you have one room where you all poop. But we poop in private because we're rich and we have 2 rooms. Right? We have a place. It was a luxury to simply have a place where you could fucking shit, where nobody was seeing it and there was no expectation that anyone would see it. And as that expectation grew with privacy and appropriateness and the evolution of human culture, so the word and the act became as distant from us in parallel.
Was shit always, even though it wasn't offensive or it wasn't necessarily, a curse word at the time? Because it's not, shit's one of the ones that's like, that's not you can't be like, well, fuck you. You can't be like, well, I don't know.
Shit you.
Shit is shit.
Yeah.
Doesn't, like, it's not a curse or a condemnation. But like, was it always colloquial?
Almost definitely no. In the same way that fuck meant intercourse and shit meant feces. That's the root of the word in English as we started to use it. It didn't become something that we felt like we shouldn't say until it became something we shouldn't see.
Okay.
So the word itself, whether or not it was offensive, it was just really used. It was like poop. I have to reference this thing, which may be ugly and stinky and nobody wants to touch it because of the nature of what that thing is. But I just tell you the word for it because it still exists. I'm a parent of a small child. Oh. We develop a sense of appropriateness and propriety about the business that we do in the bathroom when we're old enough to have that understanding and when we are privileged enough to have these spaces. And for the most part, you then live most of your adult life where if your gross roommate takes a shit in front of you, you're like, gah, right? Someone doesn't close the stall in the bathroom at the bar. You're like, what kind of animal? And you start to really develop this, like, we all know that is gross. It is behind closed doors. We all do it, but we don't see it and we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then you are thrust into the caregiving of a shit bag.
Right.
Of just this little human shit bag. And not only are you in close contact with the excrement of another human being in which you are the primary caregiver, but you must discuss this product with your spouse or with whoever else is caregiving this. How many times did they shit today? How does the shit look? So we may have found that in 2021, as an adult in various layers of privilege, you have the luxury of separating yourself from your own excrement and the excrement of others. But you can imagine that in the course of human history, we just cannot be very separate from these things. And
right.
So we have developed a hierarchy of words to reference this material. Now, why it got so profane, because again, we decided quickly we can be separate from these things. It is appropriate to close the door. It is appropriate not to discuss it. We didn't put the word shit into a dictionary until 1970.
Oh boy.
And was heavily censored. It's not allowed in scripts. It's not allowed in plays. It's not allowed. We have to sort of piece together what's spoken word, what we hear in documentaries, what sort of recordings and letters to try to find out how people are using the word shit. One of my favorites is latrine poetry. You scrawled on the bathroom wall, right? And the 1920s.
Latrine poetry. Did you make that up?
No, I wish I had.
That's
latrine
amazing.
poetry. As of course, people, when they're in these private rooms,
right,
doing the act, are inspired to conceive of the word. And a lot of the times that we see this word originally written is not surprisingly on the walls of bathrooms because it was forbidden from virtually everywhere else. It seemed like appropriate, literally the act is appropriate within these four walls, right, as is the scrawling of the word. 1928 in the bathroom in Yosemite National Park.
Yeah.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I took a shit here. So did you.
Shakespearean, really?
I know. It's really too bad I already had my wedding vows, said and done, because if only I had known. When it comes to shit, according to the linguists, there really are 4 metaphorical directions that explain virtually every usage in English of the word shit.
Okay.
Meaning 4 sort of ways of thinking about shit that encompass the ways we use it in language. So, number 1, feces is unwelcome. Okay?
Agreed.
Get that shit away from me. Give them shit, right? The way we use the word is like, because shit is gross.
It's really giving me shit, yeah.
Give me shit.
Smells like shit.
It smells like shit. Get that. And it smells like it might be a literal thing, but exactly. You might be meaning the gas.
Yes.
Or the
smells
smoke.
Like shit in here.
Right, exactly. Number 2, feces is real. It is literal and unavoidable. So we use the word shit in ways in which we want to suggest real, literal, and unavoidable. The shit. You know your shit.
Ah, yes.
Okay? Get your shit together. We understand when you say get your shit together. again, an alien, a new speaker to the language. We don't mean anything to do with your feces.
No.
But when we say the literal and the unavoidable, the sort of, in the sense that shit is real and unavoidable. When I say get your shit together, I mean this sort of essence of you.
Yeah, your life. Get your life together.
Get your life together.
Get your shit worked out.
Similar to fuck your shit up. That's going to fuck your shit up. It has nothing to do with your bowel
or anal sex.
And again, and even as someone who really loves anal sex,
we're both raising our hand.
Yeah, we love anal sex, and you also love the word shit. There was never any flicker of misunderstanding that if somebody says to you, "He fucked my shit up," that you know it doesn't have anything to do with sex or your butt.
I'd be like, he robbed you, he destroyed your things.
Exactly.
You know, I would think material. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, the number 3 has some subcategories, so buckle up. Number 3, metaphorical direction of the word shit is feces is lowly. He dances like shit. I can't stand that shit. That lowly, disgusting stuff, right?
Yes.
Here's the color of lowly, though. And again, where the evolution of thought and language and cursing are so fascinating. So if the metaphorical direction is feces is lowly, lowly over time evolves into humble. Where should I put this shit? You don't always mean stuff I hate. It's a humble, it's a soft, it's like a diminishing humility of the thing. I come in with all of my bags. I say, where do I put this shit? You know I don't mean.
It's back to the other explanation to fuck, where it's an authenticity.
It's a softening of the word stuff.
Right.
So let's just say one of the examples the author gives. If lowly equals humble, and I'm saying where should I put this shit? It's because it would be inappropriate for me in this environment, depending on the person I'm talking to say, where should I put my belongings?
Right.
That wouldn't sound
right. Which is, again, what I said before is how it's weird, and maybe it's just in my brain of how I kind of, to me, it's a form of intimacy that, like, it's a showing of intimacy and authenticity and, like, letting me see you, that you would not walk into a stranger's house and be like, where can I put my shit? But since I am one of your BFFs.
That's right. I would say to a person, a service person who is generously helping me with my bags at a hotel, where would you like my things?
Shit.
Where would you like my things? Where shall I put my belongings? Thank you for helping me with my stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe. But no, to the closest people, to the people you want to be appropriately humble to, it is, where do I put this shit?
So it's an
and
intimacy thing.
And also it's used in this way to purposefully soften something that without the qualifier of shit might make you sound elitist. For example, I'm really into like opera and shit.
Yeah.
Because it's really important to me that you know that even though I'm talking about something that might be really highbrow or really, I'm into that shit. I just want you to know it's no big deal. Like, it's a very specific usage. So from the original feces is lowly comes this subcategory of humble. Okay. But then lowly also equals fake. Are you shitting me? He gave me some shit about it being illegal. It's not just that it's lowly, it's that it's fake. It's right. So we start to make these little equations. Third subcategory in our evolution of the word and the thought of feces being lowly is worthless. It doesn't mean shit. Means the same thing as that means shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean shit and it does mean shit mean exactly the same thing, which is it's worthless, right? So in the one major umbrella, which is that shit is lowly, we get it means it's humble, it means it's fake, and it means it's worthless. But then it gets so flipped on its head within that worthless category that you go, he's rich as shit.
Yeah.
And if you were just defining that, if you were just writing a translation of he's rich as shit, that would be a very difficult phrase to translate.
Right.
Because you would assume that rich as shit means poor, but it doesn't. And that is all a neurological connection to the linguistic evolution of a profane word, which is again why, as an intelligent woman who loves history, I will not back away from using the word fuck in the name of my podcast. Okay.
Support that.
Okay. So I said there were 4 metaphorical directions. That was 3. Feces is lowly, but then it had all these subcategories.
Right.
The 4th one is feces is intense. Who hasn't had an intense shit in their life, right? But this one is unique because it is less about the direct connection to feces and the act of shitting, and is more about the evolution of cursing in general, in that it's an intensifier. The way we use shit as an intensifier simply replaces curse words that were intensifiers before, but have lost their luster. Consider the phrase, what if a bear comes into my campsite? In 1880, I would say, run like hell. In 1950, I might say, you run like shit. And in 2021, I might say, you run like fuck. I am simply using a placeholder profanity as an intensifier.
Right.
You understand there are some phrases that had this other word, and once you get there and you're using it to yell or write, you find once you're hovering over that particular curse word, it just doesn't quite have the gas you want it to push you over the
like
the finish
get your
line.
shit and get out of here.
So
Where it's more of like a
right. And you take what your parents used to get upset about, and then you're like,
clean your shit up.
Yeah, and you're like, clean your fucking shit
Means
up.
like not only do they want you to clean it up, they're also really annoyed and pissed off about it. That's what that conveys.
Especially Laura Ripple, who doesn't even like to use any curse words.
No, she does. It's just goddamn. She will curse up a storm. My mom. Love you, Mom.
Love it.
Very shit heavy household.
And as for me and mine, we will use the word shit.
Yep.
That's what your live, laugh, love is above your door. So we have collectively, me and Rhett, we covered hell, damn, fuck, and shit. I told you at the beginning that I was going to go to a word that even I won't say.
Oh, dear.
And the word I will not say is the N word.
No.
I won't say it. And there's a lot of reasons why I won't say it. And I want to say, I mean, it's tricky. Not only is this a podcast in which I freely use the word fuck, and if anyone is making a drinking game out of this episode, which I strongly recommend, it might seem sort of funny that after all of that, I will say, and yet there is this word so sacred, even I won't use it. But it also should make sense that in the context of the historiography that I discuss, I understand that there is a word that means more in 2021 than it may have meant in 1887, and that it may mean in 2041. And that's fine, because my body and these lips and this microphone are in 2021, and those are the rules under which I will operate. The primary reason why I will not say the N-word is because it is unpleasant for me to say. Yeah. I love saying fuck.
Feels
fuck,
good.
shit,
yeah,
cat sucker, motherfucker, tits.
Yep.
I love it. It's fun. Not only do I like to say it, I like to see the way it affects people when I say it, even if it bothers them.
Tickles me.
The N-word is different. I have no joy in saying it. I don't like it, and I don't like hearing it. It hurts me, which is the other side of the fence from curse words. It's why I understand curse words, why I understand Laura Ripple, and why I try to not use language that truly hurts people.
Yeah.
I don't mind titillating you, and I don't mind making your heart beat fast and your eyes dilate and maybe you even gasp and clutch your pearls. I don't actually want to hurt you, unless I do want to fucking hurt you, and then that's a different deal. The N-word is different than these other words for me because they bring me no joy to say, and they give no titillating joy to other people when I say them, so it doesn't feel the same. I really even struggle because I know and I've heard and I've read and I understand that even to say the N-word is a bit of an offense, because what it does is place in your brain a placeholder for what the N-word represents, which means I'm sort of making you say the N-word in your own brain, which is almost more offensive than me just saying it in your ears, because you have to write it. But here we are. We're in an episode about cursing.
Right.
So now the author, for whatever it's worth, John McWhorter of 9 Nasty Words, is an African-American man. And when he gets to the N-word in the book, he accentuates that he is a linguist and a black man and an American citizen. And he explains that he understands that people say, some people can say it, some people can't. And he knows that he can maybe navigate spaces with the words that other people can't in certain appropriate spaces. And he explains how he feels about it versus how society feels about it. And really, at the end of the day, it comes up to where I am, which is it's not my word.
Yep.
I can say cunt and bitch all day. Some other people can't. You know? My dad can call himself a redneck.
Arguably, I can call myself a faggot.
Correct. Right? Exactly. So I will henceforth sort of as a white woman speaking from the position I am, I'm going to discuss this word without using the word, and now you know why. It is, however, sticky. Even to say I don't use it is sticky, right?
Right.
Because why not? I mean, if you're going to go back to George Carlin, and if I'm, as a stand-up comedian, going to go back to what I said in this first episode about why are there all these stupid words we can't use, then why don't I use this word? Why am I backing off this word? And I tried to tell you why. It may be incomplete, and other people may come to other conclusions. But here we are. In many ways, the N-word has more in common with goddamn than it does with others, in the sense that it solicits and elicits a condemnation that is bigger than you from an entity that is bigger than you. You don't know what you're summoning there.
Right.
Right? You are meddling with a power that is beyond you.
Right.
But it also gives me an empathy to my friend Maggie and to other people who do shiver every time I use the word fuck, because it affects them in much the way the N-word affects me and many others. But here's why it's sticky. In 1968, James Baldwin, on the Dick Cavett show, said, "I am not your N-word." Okay. In 2019, they made a documentary about James Baldwin, and the title of that documentary is "I Am Not Your Negro." That is a 2019, 1968. One of the things it shows you is one of the ways in which the N-word sort of evolved. To that point, and in the course of that conversation, a white literature professor at a university, her name is Lori Scheisse, wanted to discuss why James Baldwin's original quote was "I am not your N-word," and the documentary in 2019 changed it to "I am not your Negro." She's a literature professor, and she wanted to discuss what had happened to this word, and is it fair? One of the questions she asked is it fair to James Baldwin that out of respect, they changed his word? He chose that word himself on TV in 1968, and who are we in 2019 to edit him, to censor him for our own benefit? Again, she was a white professor asking this question of an audience, and a white student took such objection to this, she was almost fired. Is that what we want for an English professor who is bringing James Baldwin and the literature of James Baldwin into this predominantly white class to discuss not only issues of race, but issues and the circumstances in which we use these words, to be censored by another white person saying this word is too offensive for us to discuss? Now we can't talk about James. It was a very controversial moment.
Yeah.
But we all know this word is sharp and hot. It felt like it was less sharp and less hot. Like something happened kind of within our lifetimes where it could cancel you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the stakes.
Well, that's what you're saying.
went up.
And like you said before, of like, well, in 45 years from now, things may be different, but I'm operating by the rules of 2021. And in 2021, that word does not leave my mouth.
New. If you want to know if Dawn said cunt, 100% I said cunt. If you're like, can you believe there were kids around? Absolutely. I guarantee you I uttered some inappropriate word around a bunch of kids and a bunch of people that I shouldn't have, and everyone was very offended. Absolutely correct. I will never, ever deny that it happened. If anyone ever said I used the N, I'd be like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Why did the N-word get so particularly hot in our lifetime? And are we imagining that it's the temperature on this word has been turned up? Absolutely not. The temperature on this word has absolutely been turned up. If you want to know when it went from like totally not okay, probably not cool, to like, it appears the linguistic history can bring us back to the O.J. Simpson trial. Whether we were consciously aware of it or not, in 1995, a huge part of the O.J. Simpson trial was the accusations of racism to the LAPD, which very valid. They used the ways and the frequency in which the LAPD officers used the N-word as court-defined proof that they were racist. The case was built on the fact that they used this word, therefore they were racist, therefore you have to acquit O.J. Simpson. I mean, that was the clear line in so many ways of the defense. We absorbed that trial in such a fundamental way that it appears that we really absorbed the gravity of the N-word and what using the N-word means and how serious it is in the course of that O.J. Simpson trial, because how we used it before and how we used it after are marked. But then also after that, it got real hot with O.J. Simpson, but then it got hotter with rap and hip hop. When we got the boom of rap and hip hop, and by the boom, I don't just mean people creating it and listening to it, because people creating it and listening to it had happened long before it became mainstream, but it got into the Grammys.
Yeah.
And was entering the mainstream around the same time, kind of the late 90s.
It's like arguably sonically the dominant,
which is exactly
musical genre.
The point. Correct. If young white people who fell in love with this music and fell in love with these lyrics and are using it in a way that they are hearing it said, it can't be judged in the same way as a 74-year-old guy who grew up in Jim Crow. Right?
Right.
So he argues that when you find young people absorbing this mainstream music, saying these lyrics, what we found is we're on the cusp of a new evolution of a word. Why your mom gets hot with goddamn, but you don't care. Why I'm hot with the N-word. Maybe my daughter won't care as much because her peers and she will absorb it differently. And I'll bring her around the table and be like, you just can't use it in front of me because it makes me crazy. And I understand that you have a different relationship with this word because of culture. But you need to know that my relationship with this word is still George Floyd. Ooh. Hey, you're still with me. Man, I could have just done the history of the F word and been done with it. But whoop, there I was, wading around with a forbidden word deep into some of the most tumultuous cultural and political waters there are today. Fucking A. I'm really glad you're along. This is a great conversation, and I, of course, intend no offense. But if offense was taken and you want to correct, enlighten, or otherwise discourse with me, do it. Reach out. I'm nice. For a while. And you can find me on Instagram at HILF Podcast or via email hilfpodcast@gmail.com. Many of you have reached out, and it is a joy truly to hear from you. I also love it when you... You mentioned another big, hot, sharp word that you use that others can't, which is...
Faggot.
I'm not going to use that word either. This is one of those words that was so ubiquitous in the 80s. I think I would be hard-pressed to find an 80s comedy. I'm even talking about PG, teen 80s comedy that doesn't use that F word. With no issue.
No, it's. I feel like it's very recently... And I mean recently, just in the sense that, like, when I was in high school, it was very regularly thrown around all the time. Oh, stupid, oh, faggot. No, you look like faggot, super gay, faggot. It was very ubiquitous at the time. Mm-hmm. And it's very recently become I know that when I have deployed it as a stand-up or just in conversation, when I have deployed it comedically, boy, dude, like the straight people in the room,
they pucker up.
There's a visible physical reaction that happens. Mm-hmm. So, I've even had friends that are like, Ryan, and it's generally straight. It's always the straight people that virtue. And I know, and believe me, I know that the intention behind what they're saying is good, but I don't need you to virtue signal. I don't need you to police when I can and cannot say that word about myself, because I've been through enough where I've earned the right to deploy that word comedically. And I'm like, I've been called it enough in my life that I think I've earned the right to call myself it, certainly. Or just that I've earned the right to, I have earned the right to take the power back for myself, because it's been deployed enough as a weapon against me that I at least have the right to disarm that weapon.
And that is when we talked about the various ways of cursing. Offenses against God, offenses against the body, offenses against groups of people in the form of a slur. This is what makes this particular kind of cursing so unique, because similarly to what you're describing, often we have found in our modern language, the group of people who have found that word to be used against them in pain have taken that word,
back.
Turn it around, own it, use it as a badge of pride, use it as a way quickly to identify themselves within that group. It's almost like the oppressor hands you a tool of community. In the same way that you've described, that I walk in and be like, these bitches.
Yeah.
I love you sluts. that is simultaneously puts my arms around you and includes myself in you in a way that without the profanity and without the profanity used first as a word of oppression may not have been so effective. Does that make sense?
Right.
Now, the anatomy of that particular word, the F word, one of the ways we first thought you, which is ironically something that you brought me to, which is the show Grey's Anatomy. I was pregnant. I was pregnant and so sober. And all I did was knit and watch television. And Ryan brought me to Grey's Anatomy after many years.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And
we'll
you
try
also,
again with Gilmore Girls in the future. She's not a fan. We're hacking away for Gilmore Girls, y'all.
I know.
I'm holding the torch for us both.
How many? I watched 3 whole episodes and was like, I don't get it. But Grey's Anatomy, I loved. And as you pointed out, because I didn't know a lot of the like behind the scenes drama, but I was coming into these episodes like obviously years after they had been out and the people had consumed all of the pop culture stuff around them. Actor Isaiah Washington is fired from the show Grey's Anatomy when on a particular episode behind the scenes, he called T.R. Knight the F word.
Yeah. I don't know if he was fired. I think I could be very wrong. But there definitely were seasons. He stayed on for a couple. I don't know if he was fired, but I do know, I think just like kind of culturally, career-wise, Hollywood-wise, continuing to book job-wise, I think that he was effectively canceled.
He was effectively canceled before we had the word canceled. There does seem to be, and again, this was through the 9 Nasty Words, like this is John McWhorter's history, the line between Isaiah Washington's exit from Grey's Anatomy and subsequently the Hollywood scene in general can be drawn directly to the day he called T.R. Knight the F word. It also, however, shines a light on a sort of reoccurring theme within the world of this style of cursing, this slur, saying something derogatory about a group of people, that seems to come back to how we leverage these cancellations against Black people. Even though I started with the N-word, Isaiah Washington was essentially cut off for using the F word against a gay colleague. Dave Chappelle talks about the ire that he has drawn for his conversations about trans people. I'm not going to answer the question here. I'm just saying it is a question that continually seems to be risen, which is who can use these words against whom, right? You have to be within the community under which that word is usually leveraged against in order to use it with impunity. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But being a marginalized group does not give you license to use another slur against another group, right?
No.
What is the definition of the F word?
Well,
do you know?
Originally, its origin was in.
If you were to look up a
British
dictionary.
culture, do Brits have a culture?
If you were to look up
British
this word
culture,
in the dictionary, what would it tell you?
It's a cigarette. It's an old school British slang colloquialism for a cigarette, right?
Yes, but it's older than that.
Oh, sticks.
Correct.
Sticks. A pile of sticks.
That's a bundle of sticks.
Is a colloquialism for a pile of sticks.
Yes. Because I feel like when I heard the word, it was for a cigarette when I was 18 and traveling in Europe. And everyone would be like, do you want a fag? And I'd be like,
where?
Where? Sort of like shiver up your spine as an American and be like, oh.
Yeah.
And they, it's just a bundle of sticks. It seems to be kind of where it came from. It's not a cigarette, it's a bundle of sticks. And then I remember a gay man telling me that the reason why that word is so offensive, even though it means cigarette and bundle of sticks, is because they would burn gay people at the stake. So gay men became synonymous with a bundle of sticks because that's where you put them to burn them.
Oh.
And I remember being very struck by it. It's a very striking thing to hear. Jesus. That you would equate a human being with their method of execution.
Yeah.
It turns out linguistically in the history, that is not entirely true.
I've never heard that before.
And yet, it does show us where derogatory language comes from. Originally, the bundle of sticks to the F word we understand today first comes with using it as a derogatory term for women. Because often the line that will degrade a gay man starts as a derogatory term for women or a woman's genitalia, and then it morphs into gay men. So a bundle of sticks was a straw man, a thing that you just used. So if you were going to call someone a bundle of sticks, it was a woman. She's just a bundle of sticks. This thing I used to fuck.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So if you were going to use the bundle of sticks analogy for a person for a century, it was a derogatory term for a woman you just be fucking. Then it evolved to mean gay men in that it is a stand-in for a woman. It is this human body that is just a bag of sticks. Just not
A bundle of guys swinging their sticks around.
something like that.
I don't know.
Something like that. But just a sexual object, right?
Yeah.
But usually if you're going to find a word that refers to gay men, the evolution of that word usually starts with that word is used to define something that is soft and weak.
Right.
Then it is used to describe a woman. Then it is used to describe a gay man. The examples are pussy and bitch and the F word fall right in line. The only exception as a profanity that is used most often, leveraged against gay men that didn't first start with women, is cocksucker.
Yeah.
If you use the word cocksucker, you mean a man.
Right.
And the implication is he's the kind, quote unquote, of man who sucks cock.
Right. Which, I mean, up until very recently, and I would say that's still something you might hear like thrown out by some old white dude in Texas. It's still relatively like, well, he didn't say faggot. He did say cocks. He did say you're such, which, because it's meant in a derogatory way. It's meant condescending under the understanding that being a cocksucker is a bad thing. It's meant as an insult. Mm-hmm. Whereas now, I mean, of course I have taken back the power. I stand in front of rooms full of strangers and talk about sucking dick all the time. I have zero problem with that. But I don't know. There's not a lot of venom in that one anymore. Mm-hmm. I feel like there has been an evolution with cocksucker where I don't know. No one's really talked about that as like a cancelable word. I don't think if like a recording got released of like The Rock being like, that guy's a fucking cocksucker, I don't know if he'd be canceled. I think we'd be like, that's not very nice.
It's offensive. It's profane. But you would have to get into a somewhat elitist intellectual debate like we're having to draw the line to degrading a certain group of people, by which time we will have moved on long from there. Yeah. But the F word, we
has
understand.
Solidly landed
also,
in a place.
Cocksucker also has the unique element that you and I talked about at the beginning, which is the form and shape and way it feels to say a word. Cocksucker.
Yeah, it's the CK.
And why your uncle, who may or may not have any homophobia, would hammer his thumb in the garage and go, cocksucker.
Yeah.
Right? Or this cocksucking thing.
Yeah.
Like, it is so fun to say, and it has just sort of a lowercase italics cursing to it, that it might trigger that right side of your brain curse word that is just cocksucker. It makes your eyes dilate and your heart beat fast, and it gets my pain threshold up.
Yeah, that's the first thing that pops up.
I'm not hammering my thumb.
Yeah,
I'm not hammering my thumb accidentally and yelling the F word.
No.
Because it is so associated.
But that's what's so interesting. Like my mom growing up, like my grandpa, what was the word, Ryan? Fuck. Her husband, my grandpa, who was also one of the most brilliant men that I know, was very like prone to when he was angry. It was God damn it. Mm-hmm. So it was like, it's funny how it's kind of like he threw it out all the time. Mm-hmm. Angry, God damn it. Like it's a very, but I feel like it's a very generational. Like you don't hear a 19-year-old being like hammering his thumb and saying, God damn it. Like that's not a thing.
It would be like a very unique culture. They would have to have been raised in a very unique culture, because when we do hear it now in 2021, people who back off words like God damn it and hell, it sounds very strange to us. It sounds like a Ned Flanders, a Mitt Romney. One of the things Mitt Romney,
100%.
when he was running for president, that he was continually ridiculed for was the gosh and the gollies and the gall darns, which are all replacements for God.
Gall darn.
He would say,
golly. In Texas, it's golly. Well, golly.
Gosh darn. And like,
well,
and even the term tarnation. So if the original curse was by eternal damnation. That would be your curse. If you put your hand up in 500 AD and you said eternal damnation, someone would be like, oh, right? You have called God to give me.
The lightning would strike.
We started to adjust because we didn't want to say that because we knew how harsh that was. So the adjustments are tarnation, darn.
What in tarnation?
These are where some of these like adjustments and abbreviations of these things come from because we start to say it. And then as in the instantaneous way that our brain and our mouth are connected that we go, gosh.
Yeah.
And so, because I do too, I find that because I try very hard not to use the big ones around my daughter that I have started throwing out. God damn it.
Really?
Because it just doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me, but I still got to say it. And then I see her.
I feel like, and I feel like there will be mail about this, but I feel like I've heard it on network television. Like
definitely you have.
Night.
Damn hell, definitely.
Goddamn. And all of a sudden they can just drop it on like ABC after 8:00. And I was like, whoa, did I just hear goddamn it on ABC?
If you recall, I talked about the Carlin Supreme Court and that they said, yes, you can regulate speech that is obscene, but not indecent. Just that it's indecent can't be the threshold under which you censor it because then we wouldn't be able to have all of these interesting, important political, journalistic conversations until 10 p.m. Because the idea is the kids are asleep. So you can show side boob and you can say goddamn after 10 p.m.
Okay. So I'm not crazy.
No, you're not crazy. Those were real laws. Now, my dear friend Ryan.
Yes.
We have gone through some really fucking fantastic profanity history, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to give you just a couple of honorable mentions before we sign off because I don't have time to go too deep into them, but they're just so fucking interesting. One of them is pussy. Pussy, we all know.
It's a delicious word.
You don't know shit about how delicious pussy is. Well, we know. Here's one of the interesting things about pussy. Pussy is first a cat, the creature known as a feline cat. A pussy cat. That we then equated it to females makes sense. It was a sweet thing. That you're soft and fuzzy and adorable and I love you and I want to carry you around.
Come and give me
then
that
that
pussy.
you take and this is often what happens with women and the degrading of women is that you start with a word that refers to the whole woman. And very quickly, the word just refers to her genitals because that's all we actually give a shit about, right?
Right.
So a pussycat, I love to hold her. I love to kiss her. I love to keep her around me. I love to fuck her. Pussy just suddenly becomes the thing that I'm actually fucking talking. I don't want to hold her hand.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about when I say my girl's like a pussy, and it just immediately goes there. What's interesting is that it's in a couple different languages. They've had this same evolution. French, the word for cat is chat.
Okay.
And it's the same word they use as profanity for a woman's
pussy.
Okay. So some languages, we had the same sort of psychological evolution, which is like, oh, cats are so soft and sweet and you want to hold them on your lap. You know what else is hot and sweet and I like to hold on my lap. And they just immediately, like, it doesn't seem to be contained in language. We just go there. But the sound, pussy, doesn't follow the one syllable with a hard consonant at the end.
All right.
So while it is a profane, lowbrow word for a woman and for a woman's genitals, it doesn't ever seem mean. It's lowly, but it's not mean. If you want to hurt a woman, if you want to use something that is a hurtful word that generally means a woman's reproductive organs, what's the one syllable word that ends in a consonant that you choose instead?
You throw around the cunt word.
There it is.
You're like, she's a fucking cunt. Fucking cunt.
Pussy is kind of sweet and alluring. Even the word itself, pussy, it's sweet and we know because that's how it came. So it's naughty because it is eventually leading you to a woman's genitals. So it's sort of like.
But that's what we're saying.
But if you're trying to hurt,
like with shit. And with pussy, with its shit, pussy, or cunt, fuck. Yeah.
And again, what I'm trying to do is make your heart beat fast, your eyes dilate, and your vein pop out, and you're ready to do something.
There's a k sound that is like catches people's
Yeah.
attention and
You're
feels
looking-
very aggressive.
If you were looking at a lady, a couple stools down at the bar, and you want her to stand up so you can punch her in the fucking mouth,
I would never do that.
you look at her and you say,
You could do that.
and if you go, hey, you pussy, she'd probably be like, I'm sorry, what? But if you say, hey, you cunt, that bitch is up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're gonna get what you came after. Well, Ryan, we have exhausted the research that I have done on the history of cursing. Do you feel like you need to like confess or absolve or bathe or shower? Do you feel like you can hang with these words?
I feel like as long as knowledge is power, and as long as I've educated myself, then that gives me more authority to toss them around willy-nilly.
Now that's a word I don't like to hear. I'm going to beep. You know what? The only thing I'm going to beep out in this, the only thing I'm going to beep out in this whole episode is
willy-nilly.
You saying, how dare you?
How dare you?
I have standards. Oh, my friend Ryan, it has been a fucking delight.
Oh, blast.
And I'm so grateful. Listen, I love you. I'll never censor you, girl.
I love you to pieces. Mwah.
Oh, man, that was a lot of fucking fun. Thanks to Ryan, a podcast virgin no more. And of all of our dear listeners, I'd like to take this moment to especially thank my mom, Lana. Oh, mama, so much naughty language you've endured in 2 episodes worth. Oh, God, Dawn. I know. I owe your ears a spa day. If you aren't my mom, but you still love me, you can prove it by going to wherever you listen to subscribe, rate, and review. It makes us feel so good, but it also tells the bean counters to put us at the cool kids table. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks when I sit down with television's own Wayne Wilderson. Television's own, does that seem too broad? Well, go look him up on IMDb and you'll see this guy has been on everything. From The Office to Grey's Anatomy to Modern Family. He was even the bundle of grapes for the Fruit of the Loom commercials for years. He's hilarious, very, very fun, and he assigned me the history of cinnamon and the spice trade. Oh, it is a savory trip we take together, and you will want to join us. Till then, remember, history's a party, and everybody's coming.